Hello everyone. In this video, I shall tell you about the important part of database and research methodology and how to write it. That is sample selection, how to write about sample selection. But before I start, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Now, in database and research methodology, as I've told you in my earlier videos, that you have to write about scale development, you have to mention the universe of the study, you have to mention the sample selection, where the sample came from and what was the basis of selecting the sample. So I'll be covering that in this video. I have already covered the scale development and the universe of the study in my earlier videos. So for selecting a sample, judgmental, purposive or systematic sampling or any other kind of sampling can be used, but other than random sampling. Now, why random sampling should not be used? Any other technique except random sampling. Random sampling should not be used for the purpose of sample selection because there are many statistical techniques which will not be applicable if you use a random sample. So when we study the assumptions of statistical techniques, we generally go through the assumptions and we have to fulfill certain assumptions. So most of the statistical techniques, they assume that the sample is not random. So the statistical techniques will not be applied if the sample is random. So never use random sampling techniques because then you will not be able to apply certain statistical techniques, or most of the statistical techniques rather say. So never a random sample. Then I would write that since the study was exploratory in nature, therefore a proportionately representative sample was used for the purpose of the study. Proportionately representative sample would mean that I would cover all the segments of the society equally, or if it is about banks, so I would cover equally the public sector and the private sector banks and every area in which the bank is situated. So in order to achieve this end, I made a list of private and public sector banks operating in Mumbai, and this is systematic sampling because I have to approach the bank customers to know about non-performing assets and their view about non-performing assets. So it is obviously my judgment that I would go to the banks to get this data filled. So that is why. And in order to make the approach systematic, I made a list of all the banks, whether it is a public sector bank or a private sector bank in Mumbai, and out of those, there are certain banks I am able to approach. So I shortlisted 200 banks out of those and selected one customer each from each bank, making it a systematic sample of 200 bank customers. So this is how you have to select your sample. This is just an example you can use. For example, you are carrying out a study of an insurance company, so you have to assess the insurance company and their bank customers. Or if you're carrying out a primary study in which you can get the questionnaires filled from the general public. For example, I have to study the situation of women in COVID. So in that case, the entire general public is my sample. So the universe is the entire public, whether it is it depends what is the sample. If it is a study in Indian scenario, then it is the whole of India. If it is in Mumbai, it is Mumbai that forms the sample. So in that case, I can also make it systematic based upon certain criteria. I can make it judgmental, and or I can go about that I made a list of respondents, working respondents and non-working women if I want to take the women's perspective, and then working women in various schools, colleges, insurance companies, banks, and I took a representative sample, say 10 women from each segment and 10 women from household sector. So this is how I make it proportionally representative. So the sample should be representative, and then I have to write that the survey was conducted during December 2020 to December 2021, whatever the period of your sample selection was, during which you collected the sample for your study that you got your questionnaires filled. So this is how you write about the sample selection part of database and research methodology. For any other queries, you can text me in the comment box, but don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I would love to have suggestions from you. Thanks for now.